How do you think the district could better partner with parents?
How do I think the district could better partner with parents? A couple things that I'd like to see. I believe right now, if I remember the statistics from about a month ago, out of all the surveys sent out to the district, about 10% of those come back filled out. So some of the things that 43% or 37% of the responses feel like there are bullying concerns and things like that. 37% to 10% is about 3.5% of the population. So I would like to find ways to be able to get a better community interaction. Also, I do believe in transparency, and I think with everybody's schedules, I believe that everybody's lives are busy. Some parents are up at the school, throughout the week, and they might not have time to make the school board meetings. I do know that there is a time commitment for that. I would be all in favor of live streaming these school board meetings. That way a parent or guardian or other members of the district could watch it the next night, that weekend. And so again, I think it's not just expecting parents to come in to us, so to speak. It's how can we communicate, how can we do a better job of getting the information out to them and then doing a follow-up response.
Okay, my name is Sarah Swartz. I'm not sure if we did official introductions, but so Sarah Swartz. How do we better partner with parents? I think that happens in a couple of different ways. The communication that comes from our district sometimes varies depending on classroom teacher, depending on building, and depending on level. So we get district communication, I get building communication, and then I also get teacher communication. One thing that's tough is the best communication is directly from those teachers. And so then that varies by classroom to classroom and that elementary level as to if you're receiving those communications or not. So making sure that that is the same across all platforms, that we have a uniform policy in that so that we can ensure that all parents are receiving the same information. We know they're receiving our district communication. We may not be doing that in a platform that they're using, whether it's email or Facebook or those types of things. So we want to make sure the communication is there for sure. In addition, adding different volunteer opportunities for our parents. There's a lot of things that go unfilled or unnoticed, and also part of that is coming back in from COVID. So we had to stop, you couldn't do lunch visits, you couldn't do those types of things. When you are involved in the school, that communication automatically goes up. When you are part of your student's PTA, when you are on those boards, when you are on those committees, when you go to the listening sessions and the feedback, or when you are part of the district's planning for those big rocks and those goals that we did, you then naturally know more about what's going on when you take that active piece. Dang it.
Hi, I'm Tisha Homfeld, and part of the problem right now with our district is, I feel, being on the school board presently, is I don't think parents are involved enough. So I think when you're in elementary school, parents are, there's one teacher, you can get involved a little bit more. When you're in middle school, you struggle a little bit, as I did, because then my kids have 6 different teachers, or same with high school. So I think different volunteering programs in the middle school for sure, and in the high school is one. I also feel transparency, that is one of my key goals. I just think the more, I kind of struggle with the video and videotaping our meetings. Not that I don't think parents should be involved and know what's going on, more as I don't think some board members would be as responsive if they know that what they say is going to be recorded. Not that they're saying anything, but I would be more hesitant in what I say if I know that it's a live feed. But I do see the point where people are busy, parents have sports, kids, dinner time is around 6, so,
Thank you, Tish.
video might be it.
Hi, I'm Jeff Coleman. It's hard to follow whenever everybody else is giving out all your answers, right? So I think the big thing for me is the video and the transparency issues. I would love to have our meetings videotaped, and I think we are. I think we're gonna be live streaming them there at our new building here when we come up pretty soon. Also, the point of parent involvement, I think that communication and it goes kind of both ways, right? So, and it's not just about parents. I think the whole community has to get involved. And we all pay taxes into this school district. We all need to be involved with it because that's how we get all of the things that the community wants out of the school. So how do we do that? I don't know what the answer is because I think we've been trying to do that for some time now, and it's sometimes difficult. I would love to see this many people out of our school board meetings. If we could get that many people out of the school board meetings, that'd be awesome. Because the more input we have, the better off we are. So that's where I am at this point.
Hello, my name is Michael Hackett. I'm going to have to side kind of in Trish's camp in that I'm a little hesitant about having video at the school board meeting. Not because we shouldn't be transparent, but because it really doesn't serve the community. If you're not there, we don't see your reaction. If you're watching it after the fact, that isn't giving us input. The district has struggled for more than a decade getting the community more involved. We have opportunities where we have parents as teachers coming out, and those people are working hard. But we have PTA meetings where we have 6 people. That's a community problem. We have an offering, but our community's not participating. And so we need to engage with parents more, and we know that they're busy, and we can't stop that. But we need to get the community in the door more, and that's gonna require effort on the community's part. There's only so much the district can do to bring you to us, to offer you things, but we need the community to meet us halfway. We have steering committees where we get stakeholder and community input. We need to see people come to those regularly. And, you know, you get to pick what you want to be in. If you want to be involved in this thing or that thing, you get to choose. But it's important that the community starts coming to meet us. Because the district, for all the things we want to offer and do, we can only do it halfway.
Thank you.
My name is Jan Redding. I've been on the board for a long time and loved every minute of it. One of the things that, when I first started with the district, I was a volunteer coordinator. And it was so exciting to reach out to the community and tell them the different things that they could do at the school. One of the things that I picked to do was working in the libraries. And I spent a lot of my time over at Matthews. And I tell you, it was so gratifying to have the teacher say, I finally have some time. Thanks for putting the books in the library and working with the children. And then a lot of times the little fellas will come in and they'll call me Grandma. And I said, well, that's quite all right with my gray hair. And it was one of the things I was going to tell you about, and that was, it went right outside my head here. But it has to do with working with the children. Oh, I know what it was. Grandparents' Day at the school. And a lot of the parents, grandparents, they're not there. So they called me and said, would you like to? I said, I'd love to be a grandparent. So I went over to one of the schools and I sat down in it was one of the little kids' chairs. And I thought, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? And about that time, a little guy came running across the room, and I had my hands in my lap like this, and he threw my hands apart, and he jumped in my lap, and he says, I know you're not my grandma, but you got gray hair, and so you're my grandma today. And I was so happy, and he was happy as well, because he had a grandma. I had right along with everybody else, so he didn't feel left out.
Thank you,
So.
Jen.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Julie Taylor, and I just want to first start by saying that there are wonderful things that our district does to support and keep our parents in the loop. Our social media is very active, letting us know what's going on in our schools, our staff, and celebrating our students. I also feel that many of the schools are pushing out emails. You could join Google Classrooms, things like that. So we have the ability to open up this partnership with our parents. I do feel, though, that the district can partner better with parents. And by doing that, I think that transparency is one of the most important things that we need to talk about. Because as I attend board meetings, I realize that the same issues are coming up over and over and over again. And that is because parents are not getting the answers that they need. And so therefore, transparency needs to be at the top of our list in partnering better with parents to be able to see how they feel, how we're doing, and where we're going. I do feel that events like the listening session that was held this past summer was very useful because we got to hear from all stakeholders of the community about how they felt about our school district. And so I do feel that more meetings like this would lead to a feeling of inclusivity for the stakeholders in our community and getting our parents more involved and partnering better with them.
What do I think Grand Valley teachers are most concerned about? One thing is it's difficult to have your job judged and evaluated by a board of people that may or may not be your peers. And so that's tough to bridge that gap to make sure that understanding is there, to understand all the ramifications that go into education and being a teacher in those things. I think currently what they're really concerned about is how we're choosing to have curriculum development be part of parents, having a parent involved in that choice as well. That's tough because I know the intention is well to get parent feedback and we want that option and that value. But when we say we need that to be the same level as the teachers, I think what happens there is we're saying their opinion is not as important with the expertise they have, the schooling they've had, the day in and day out that they've had with that content, with that platform and those things. Should parents be involved in that? Absolutely, as a review, as looking at resources, as having input on those things. But I think it's really difficult when it feels like some of those big decisions are taken out of our teachers' hands.
So recently, at some of our meetings in the last month or two, there have been teachers that were concerned with the curriculum and the development. So I think there was a misconception on we weren't seeking to have parents or stakeholders, students in with the development portion of it. What we wanted was stakeholders, parents, students, board members to be in to review the curriculum once it was developed from the teachers. Here is one of the main reasons that I am absolutely for that is because recently we get a board packet every month to go through. We get about a week, maybe 5 days, and that's a good day. 5 to 4 days to review everything. The problem that I have with it is I can go in and review all the curriculum and what's going to be in it. However, I don't get to see the books that were approved, any of the literature that's going in it. I just know what that curriculum is. So I think more transparency with that will help a lot.
And staying on that same line of thought, that's not what I was going to talk about, because I want you to know, I don't know a board member that I've worked with before or a board member that I work with now that doesn't think that our teachers are doing an awesome job. But when it comes to the curriculum, which has been brought up now, it is absolutely a parent's right to know what that curriculum is. And so I will agree with Tisha. The intent, we're not putting anything in that's brand new. We just brought up a policy that we've always had, but we're now going to start making sure that it happens, which we haven't done in the past. So, yeah, I do believe that the parents have a right to know what's going on. We're not putting the parents in a position where they are actually developing the curriculum. That was never the intent. That was never the message. That's just what was taken from the board meeting. Our message is that we want our parents to be engaged. We want them to have the opportunity to say, yeah, you know what, I do like that curriculum, or no, this is where I think we would like to see some changes. And then it goes back to the teachers to make some changes, because we have the right, we're the taxpayers. We have the right to be able to say what our kids learn. Now, the teachers are the ones that get to teach it, and they're the ones that bring the curriculum together. I'm not talking about
Thank you,
the
Jeff.
development. Thank you very much.
So I have had the opportunity to see the board packets and read through them and see the curriculum that is presented for the board's review and approval. And I will tell you that it is very dense stuff. And typically there's several packets or courses that we have to approve at once. And 5 days is not enough. It just isn't. But I will tell you that if you are dogged enough and capable of focusing enough, you can probably find everything in there somewhere. But it is deep. It is really deep. Now, to really address the question, what do our teachers think is most important right now, this moment? I think that they're most concerned about our community support. They need to know that our community supports them in the job that they do, because they're here not because they make lots of money. That's not what teaching is about. Teaching is about changing the trajectory of young lives and elevating them just a little higher than they could without.
I'm going to go a little different route about the concerns that our teachers have. I think one of the main things is, number one, salary. How can we possibly get more money to our teachers? And we need bond issues in order to do that. And in order to do that, we need to tell the public, it is extremely important for you to go out and vote, and just vote yes. It's not going to take that much out of your paycheck or out of your money, but our teachers are one of the most important things in the world when you stop and think about that. Many times they see more of your children than you really do. And it's important for the children to have every advantage that they possibly can for an education. And if the teachers, if they just feel like that they're not important, then I think that's a bad situation to begin with. So I think we need, number one, to protect our teachers. We need, number one, to work with our teachers, to let them decide what to do and what not to do, what they can say and what they can't say. You know, and in our today's society, there's so many things that you got to be so careful about saying that it puts a strain on our teachers. There's no question about that at all. So I have a feeling for teachers. I thought I was going to be a teacher when I graduated from UCM, and it was in the secretarial science. And when the farm boys came in and they were bigger than I was, I decided, no, that's not going to work. I'm not going to be a teacher.
Thank you, Jan.
One of the main concerns that I feel teachers have is that we do need more parent involvement. Teachers are asking for parents to be more active in our schools in responses to emails and phone calls. Teachers want to see parents in our schools and volunteer your time and expertise to help the students in gaining the academic success that they need. We want you to join Google Classrooms and ask questions. We need the support, as it takes us all in educating and supporting our students. Further, during COVID, teachers were those unsung heroes. We were thanked, appreciated, praised, and for once we felt as if we were truly understood in the extent of the hard work that we put forth. When we returned, it suddenly seemed like the tables had turned, and suddenly we were at the opposition. So with that, I want to make sure that we understand that teachers are doing everything that they can to help support and educate your students. but we need to respect their time, their pay, and also ensure that they're getting everything that they need and hearing all voices and making sure that these things are being done in our schools. The last part I think that is important is that we need to listen and respect, because with that, as everyone has talked about the curriculum issue, we did not feel that as teachers that they were being heard, and we wanted a little bit more about what was next in the process before that passed. And so I think that we need to make sure that we're including all stakeholders in that conversation and ensuring that everything is being passed on through everyone, not just certain people.
You know, so I've got to give props to, I believe she's a science teacher in the district, and she got up and spoke last board meeting and explained some of the challenges and the rigorous process of what it is creating these curriculums. And so if you're here tonight, I'd like to meet you and talk with you, but thank you for doing that. Back to parent involvement, to her point, it's very hard to get parents, you know, for 4, 6, 8 hours a month for multiple years on end. So if you're here, thank you for bringing that up. That helped open my eyes to things. And I do agree with Jan on teacher pay. I actually spoke to a couple more teachers in the district via phone this morning. They must have been between classes unless they called in hooky today. I am a business owner, and although I believe that nobody in the district is intentionally, you know, misusing the funds. It's not that. But as a business owner, I know that most of the time there are multiple solutions to find savings, right? If our district is about students and staff and not facilities, then every decision we make financially has to benefit the staff, and which ultimately will benefit the students. In my business, I have employees that have been with me just a couple years that are making more than teachers in this district.
Thank you, Lance.
Okay, first of all, it wasn't amended. It was actually, the policy was already intact. We just hadn't been, following that policy. So we brought that up to the admin, and went and reviewed it again, and decided that's why we want the parents to be able to review the curriculum development instead of actually being part of the development. And yes, again, I absolutely think parents need to be involved. It needs to be transparent. They need to be able to see what is going to be involved in that certain curriculum. If there's any controversial parts of it, they need to be discussed, or they need to be brought to admin's attention so we can make sure that if it is something like that, then it is done on an even basis, not one-sided. I think a lot of times political agendas come into that, and that's one of my main things is politics need to stay out of our classrooms. Our kids have enough to deal with on either side. And I think there's way too many subjects that those agendas get brought into that shouldn't be.
Okay, so I'm gonna go backwards a little bit since I hit on my suggestion of the policy last question. And I'm gonna answer the last question as to what I think the teachers are most concerned about. I think that our teachers are most concerned about teaching our kids. And we'll get up here and we'll have different opinions on things, but ultimately, this is about the kids. It's not about anything else. It's about taking care of our kids and making sure that they get the ultimate education, and I mean education about the basics of what they need when they graduate from high school, to make sure that they have the ability to make a choice of whether do I go to college, do I go to a trade school, do I just go out and get a job. That's what I think we need to be teaching our kids. And I truly think that the majority of the teachers in this country are worried about that. But there is, to Tisha's, as you know, I'm a state rep. I get all this stuff down at the Capitol, and I get it back home. And I got to tell you, I see it from a much broader perspective. We have to get back to teaching our kids. We cannot let the politics get involved in the schools.
This was the question about policy IF. So my answer is that I believe our community has every responsibility to be involved in the education of our children. And the problem is that we have been remiss in being involved and taking every opportunity that we as a community could have. That's why every one of us is up here, because we want to be involved in the education of our children. And we're not generally educators. Some of us are exceptions to that. But we want to do our duty to take care of this community and our children in this community. And part of that is curriculum. And the board ultimately is responsible for approving it. But that doesn't mean there's not room for community involvement in that process. We would welcome the community to be involved. That would never be, I don't think we would ever reject community involvement in any way, shape, or form.
Well, maybe I'm thinking this in a different way, but you know, the teachers are the ones that are doing the teaching. So the teachers are the ones that see the reaction of the children as they teach a particular subject, whether they're getting it right, whether it's too deep for them, whether they don't understand, but they're right there. They know what the curriculum is all about. I think that if the teachers could make the different curriculum that they do, and then let the parents come to the school boards or ask the questions or ask the teachers themselves, could you please give us an explanation of why you did this particular thing? I'm going to leave it up to the teachers. They're the ones that are doing the work. And they're the ones that seeing the reaction of whether the children are really responding and understand what's going on.
I absolutely feel that parents and students both should play a part in revising and looking and discussing curriculum, because all of our stakeholders offer a very unique perspective and different experiences that will help in allowing our students to have the best education possible. I think it is important to note, however, that as a district, we have had many ways for parents to know and understand about the curriculum. We offer Meet the Teacher nights. We allow parents to pick up the syllabi. Then they can ask teachers at that time what questions they have. I know that many teachers invite parents to join their Google Classroom. And at this point, we have maybe 10% of parents who actually join. And you can see exactly what is going on in that classroom every single day. I also think that I know for a fact that when I was a school teacher here in Green Valley, I emailed my syllabus, I emailed parents every day. They had the ability to see exactly what was going on. And during COVID, I had parents read the books and join in the class conversations while we were having our classes, because I felt that that was a needed and necessary piece of how we stay together as a community. And so I think that moving forward, we do need to have some clear guidelines about how this looks in having parents come and address the board. But I absolutely think that we need to come together as parents, students, and staff to ensure that our curriculum is exactly what we want for our students and what is best for their future academic needs.
Well, since I went over on the last one, I'm going to go under on this one. Do I believe parents have a right to review all curriculum? 110%, and I would encourage every parent. I think that's kind of a unanimous discussion here and decision that, as you can see, everybody up here is longing for more parent involvement. We need feedback. Parents have to get involved. But yes, absolutely, I would want that.
I think that parents should know what's going on in their kids' classrooms and what books they are reading and the projects they are doing and the things that are happening. And if parents have feedback or concern for their individual child, and we need to make adjustments or accommodations for their child, 100% that should be done per that parent's request for their individual child. 2 board meetings ago, we heard from a teacher that talked about, she had shared that when she was in band in high school, her parents didn't agree with that women shouldn't wear, according to their faith, women shouldn't wear pants. And so instead of the band having to all change their uniforms, her uniform was accommodated to meet her special needs in that situation. And so parents, yes, we need your involvement. We need to make sure that when decisions are made, that it impacts your child, so that we can continue to respect everyone's wishes on what they feel best for their child.
No. No, I had to think about that for a second. What does that mean? And I'm gonna say no to that, because I think as a board, we are the ones who give direction to our administration to do what we ask them to do, and I don't think that we need to have outside parties coming in to take on that exercise, because we start losing control. And I don't mean to say that the board has control over everything, but at the same time, we do need to know what's being taught, and I think we do lose control from a third party side of things of what they are bringing into our classrooms.
Kiddo? So, no, I don't think that, not knowing the full context of the question, my gut reaction is no, I don't think there's a need for third-party groups to come in to teach. There was a time when we outsourced some of our special education, and we didn't like the results, and we brought it back in-house, because that's where we, the community, get to have the most say about how we educate our children. So I would be more inclined to build a new service internally than I would be to outsource something like that. And if it is really something we need, then we should figure out how to provide it.
I'm not real sure I understand this question at all, but thinking along those lines, I'm thinking about the students themselves, because when the teachers are there and teaching them, they're right there. They can ask questions, or they say, I don't understand, or can I take this home and talk to my parents? And when you consider the fact that you're bringing in somebody new, that person coming in new doesn't realize what's been going on in the past or what the teacher does. I think I would be against that at all, completely.
I don't know if it needs to be a third party to provide equity or equitable education to all students, but I do believe that we definitely need to be more active and have more training for equity in our school and our district. I feel that our first round of defense, though, is that we have so much talent and education within our own teachers and staff that would be the first thing, because they are, as Jan said, they are in the classroom with our students every day. They know the problems that they are facing, the experiences that they're bringing to the table every day when they walk in to try to get the best education. But we know that if we do not have their needs of safety, belonging met, they're not going to learn. And so I think that third-party sources, probably not the best idea. Let's look at what we have and the talent that we have within our staff and our district, and get the training from them, because they know our students best and they know their needs the best.
Yeah, I don't think I would be in support of maybe outside sources. I really believe that our staff currently knows the needs of our community best. And if you follow other districts that are spending 7 figures on some of these, consultation groups and organizations to come in, they come in, the district gives them the money, gives them all the information, and then they help make the decision for our community. I believe that our decisions need to be centralized. Also, if you follow some of the other districts, they are now trying to track their return on investment. They now have committees to track their return on investment. And let me tell you, in the business world, if you have to look that hard to find a return on investment, you probably didn't.
With third parties, getting them involved in our schools, I think our community is unique. That's why we live here. It makes, we all make up that community. We do have experts in our buildings, in our classrooms. One of the biggest things to tap into that expertise is making sure that they have the access to do the actual job they are hired for. So there are plenty of times that our teachers are subbing on their plan periods. There are plenty of times when we may not have janitors, and so we have teachers cleaning up lunchrooms or administrators cleaning up lunchrooms. There are times when we do not have bus drivers to take our students to the activities that they are so involved in, and that we congratulate and celebrate at every board meeting. Every board meeting, we're celebrating students and their high achievements. So what's tough about hiring a third party is we really need to evaluate further how we might be misusing the expertise that we currently have in our buildings, because they are all super qualified at those positions that they hold, as long as they're able to practice those qualifications 100% of the time.
I pretty much agree with everybody's answer on the same thing. No, I do not think we need third parties in our schools. I think, like they've said, we have experts teaching them as right now. We need to utilize them. Do the district any good to be hiring and spending any more money on third parties?
Specifically, what policy would you suggest for transgender bathrooms? Other than bathroom accommodations, should there be transgender topics within any curriculum?
Okay, so this is the bathroom question.
Yes, and between this question and the next question, around 20 people asked. Please.
Okay, so to answer the question about bathrooms, I actually grew up in a high school before I came to Grand Valley that only had water closets. And that's all we had. You didn't have a boys' bathroom and a girls' bathroom. You had just water closets and I felt like when we remodeled the high school, I feel like we missed an opportunity to have unisex bathrooms where there was just a stall and a sink, and that was it. I believe that we're going to be required to accommodate our children who are in transition. We're not going to be able to say no, and so we're going to have to figure something out. Can you repeat the last half of that question? Because that was really a two-parter.
Yes. Other than bathroom accommodations, should there be transgender topics within the curriculum?
I don't know that the community is really calling for that. That really is also very, very specific to an individual's need, I believe. And I believe that if we teach our children to take care of their neighbor the way we're supposed to, that this won't be necessary. There's nothing that we need to teach other than to take care of one another and to be mindful of each other's needs, whether it's politically or in some other manner.
Okay, Jan, would you like me to repeat the question?
Well, I'm going to try to find it through this. This reminds me of, I had the opportunity many years ago to go over to Egypt. And when I was there, I was in a restaurant and I needed to go to the restroom, so I went upstairs and there weren't any signs on the door, so then I went right on in. But I found out while I was in there that there were men in there as well as me. And it was very disconcerting. So I always thought to myself, no, I think there should be girls' bathrooms and boys' bathrooms. And then the other part of the question was,
Should we have curriculums? Transgender.
oh, no, we should not have transgender, no, absolutely not, period.
When it comes to the topic of the bathrooms and transgender, I believe that as a district, any request for this has been asked, and the situation has been done on a case-by-case basis. And I would like to think that we've put our trust in our school and district administrators, that they are checking with legal teams, policy, and law before making any decisions of that nature. Currently, we have 6 gender-neutral bathrooms in the high school, including the nurse's office. And there are also 2 in the main office that students know about and use, making that a total of 8. These are available to all students, each student. And so I think it's important for us to note that it is part of Title IX, federal law, that we have these bathrooms available for them, but those bathrooms are also available for all students. When it comes to transgender in the curriculum, I don't know that we are there yet. I think that there are ways that when we think about each child and what they need to learn, there are ways for our children to be able to pull who they are and their identity into the curriculum. And so I think that's important for us to note that maybe it's not something that is specifically in our curriculum, but those students do need to have an avenue to see who they are and themselves. But that is per their parent and per their wants and needs in the classroom, not something that the school decides.
Look, I think what this comes down to is everybody's individual privacy concerns, privacy needs, right? I actually, if elected, I would love to present to the board, and I will present to the board, the Students' Physical Privacy Act. And what that does is accommodate all students equally and provides privacy for every single student, as we should. No matter what the belief, no matter what your stance is on it, privacy, I believe, is one of the main concerns. I believe the second part of the question was, should transgender...
Other than the bathroom accommodations, should there be transgender topics within the curriculum?
Yeah, so I would not support educators or curriculum that advocated or encouraged life-altering decisions in our kids in the district.
I think one of the biggest parts of this, that sometimes when we work in a high school with kids that is ever changing with teenagers, I think we need to go to them first on some of these things and really get their impact and their value in this process, because we are making the decisions that they are going to be then impacted by. So we're not using these bathrooms, we're not doing that thing. And as the adults, because our brains are fully developed, we should be making those decisions, right? They should have input in that. So I would love to know from our students if the current needs aren't being met. Is this a problem, or is this something that is perceived as a problem from other things that we hear of? I know that there are private restrooms that are available for all students that they can access, and that could be for multiple different reasons. It doesn't have to be specifically related to transgender. In relationship to curriculum, I'm not aware of any state standards that would be addressed through talking about transgender students. In addition to that, I think in order to have a full buy-in and equity for all people, things that we do or talk about should involve the different things that they experience. In order for it to be relevant, they need to know that it's something that truly impacts them. So when we talk about the curriculum, I don't think transgender comes into play in that specific situation. However, we want to make sure we're taking students' feedback into that.
Like Julie said, there are unisex bathrooms already in our school district, or family restrooms, where if a transgender feels more comfortable going into those, then those are the ones they can choose from. I do not believe any topics or curriculum should be transgender. I feel sometimes school districts overstep their bounds, and I think any topic, when it comes to that, needs to be discussed at home with their parents. I don't think a student needs to be discussing that with their teachers. If they aren't feeling comfortable with the parent, then maybe they need to talk to a counselor or someone else like that, but not with their teacher, and there shouldn't be a curriculum on it.
So Michael and Jan and I all served together when we discussed transgenders and their bathroom uses. And we came up with a policy, if you remember, that they can use the teacher lounges and the teacher bathrooms that we had available at the time, and have since put in different bathrooms here in the high school. So I think that we have accommodated all of those who are in need of bathrooms that are not comfortable using the typical bathrooms, male and female bathrooms. So I think we've done a pretty good job of that. In reference to the curriculum and such, look, this is a very emotional topic for a lot of people. What I will say is, from a personal standpoint, I don't care what you do as an individual. If that is a direction that you want to go, I'm good with it. I just don't want to promote or to try to direct the kids around to go down a certain path. So I don't think that it should be in any curriculum, but at the same time, I do want you to know that I do believe that we need to help these kids out in helping them find their direction. I don't care what direction that is. We need to figure out how we can help them out and get them with the people that should be helping them, and that's our counselors.
Parents have reported concerns in this school and in others about not involving them in cases involving the student changing their identity. Do you support a policy in which a faculty can change a student's name or pronouns without the parent's knowledge?
No. And that's my answer, is just plain no.
Thank you, Jan.
So when I think about this question, I wish that all of our students had the ability to speak with their parents about things that they are questioning or wondering about, but sometimes our students just don't have that comfort. And so I think that it is not just an issue with our LGBTQ plus students, because there are so many students who are experiencing issues in their lives and they don't feel comfortable speaking with them. And so I would hope when any student is struggling, that they are able to talk with the right people to get the support and help that they need, whether that be a parent, a best friend, a counselor, a teacher, or administrator, to make them feel safe and heard and get them to the place that they need to get the best help for what they are needing. Further, if a student straight or LGBTQ asks to be called by a different name, I don't think many teachers question the reason behind that name choice. It's the name that makes the student their own sense of belonging in the classroom and makes them feel safe. And I think that's what we need to understand.
Can you repeat that question, please, Ashley?
Parents have reported concerns in this school and in others about not being involved in cases involving their student changing their identity. Do you support a policy in which the faculty can change a student's name or pronouns without parent knowledge?
Absolutely not. Without parents' knowledge, no. A parent or guardian. Again, life-altering decisions in young people. People under 18 years old. Yes, they are getting older. Yes, they are starting to make decisions on their own. But without parental consult, no, I would not support that. And also a portion of the Physical Privacy Act touches on that and would require a parent or guardian and the student and the counselor to all work together in that very, very complex situation.
This is definitely a really tough topic, and it's super concerning for our students and parents alike. Students and parents may not always agree on different choices that they're making, and a lot of times students feel safest at school. So that is a lot of times where we see our students shine, is school gives them a lot of different avenues and opportunities to show what they're great at to shine on a stage, to sing in the choir, to perform on a field. Changing a name, I think that gets really tough, because if we had to have parent consent on any of those things, we would want to make sure that we did that uniformly. So if, William goes by Will, then we would need parent approval on that. If you go by a middle name, then we would need parent approval on that. I don't think that it should be, so if a student asks you to call you something, a lot of the times the teachers will respect that wish and not question it further. But it's definitely tough if parents are unaware of that situation.
No, I do not believe that, teachers should be allowed to use a different pronoun without a parent's permission. And in fact, it is actually against one of our policies.
Well, I'm going to agree with most of the people on the panel that I do not believe that that we should be using pronouns or any other name without first having the parents' permission. Now, I get that there are times where parents can be divorced and there's different aspects of that. But if you have a problem at home and you know about it as a teacher or as an administrator, there's a bigger problem than just the names. And so I think if we're gonna, I think we have to start taking a different approach about, instead of changing the names and not telling the parents, let's get the parents in, figure out what the issues are, and start getting help for these people. Start bringing some help in to help bring that family unit together. Because that's the problem with our nation right now, and that's the problem of why we're having a lot of this discussion tonight, is because our family is not there. So let's try to pull the family together. Yeah, maybe they're afraid to tell their parents, but let's bring the parents in, let's get some counseling involved, and try to work that through for the child. Because again, that's what we're there for, right? We're there for the child. So let's try to work it all as a family unit.
Stealing my thunder. So, to answer this very delicate question, to officially change a child's name on a roster, in a grade book, that is probably something a parent needs to be involved in. But if a parent doesn't know, I have seen this policy in implementation in districts around us, and I have seen the disastrous results that it has on children, which is exactly who we're here for. So there needs to be something going on. If a child is wanting to make a change to their name, then we need to have the family involved, absolutely, absolutely. But we are also on that point where we can do damage that we can't fix to a child if this is not handled correctly. And so this isn't an everyday issue that I think a teacher should be handling themselves. Absolutely. This is something that counseling, that administration, that someone with a little more delicate touch and time can focus on and help resolve to the satisfaction of not just the student, but the parents. Because that's really where this whole thing needs to go back to, is back to family, to make that decision together.
Show of hands if you think that the tax levy coming up, if passed, will put a burden tax-wise on the community.
Do we have a levy coming up?
I don't think
We don't have a tax levy.
There isn't a levy coming up. There's a bond issue.
Bond issue.
There's a bond issue.
If passed,
No
will that
tax.
put a tax burden on, if you think it will put a tax burden on the community, please raise your hand.
No.
Thank you so much for your participation. Thanks for coming.